Hey everybody, welcome to lab number 18, which is on the gross anatomy of the digestive system. So what we're going to do is go over a bunch of digestive organs and their parts. We're going to look at them first on some pictures, and then we'll switch to the models. Now, first things first, one thing we got to understand is our digestive system is divided up into two separate parts. There is the alimentary canal, and that is basically the tube. So this is the food tube, the food and waste tube. So we're talking about organs like the mouth, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, and the colon or large intestine. So those are all part of my alimentary canal. And then there are accessory organs. So these are things that are going to assist with digestive processes, but food doesn't actually go through them. So here I'm talking about organs like the teeth, the tongue, the salivary glands, the pancreas, the liver, and the gallbladder. So we can see a lot of these organs on this picture here. So, of course, the mouth will be in here. We see the tongue inside the mouth there. We see adjacent salivary glands. We'll meet all three. Then we see the pharynx is up here. Then we got our esophagus. There's our stomach. There's our small intestine. There's our large intestine. And we see the pancreas tucked back there, the yellow guy. The green is the gallbladder, and the brown guy right there is the liver. So we're going to go through all of these different things in the pictures and then in the models. So here's our mouth, our oral cavity is here. Of course, we got the tongue right there. Of course, we got our teeth right there. And we can see the hard palate as well. Remember the front of the hard palate? Palatine process of the maxillary bone. Back of the hard palate. Horizontal plate of the palatine bone. And we see this soft palate right here. The hangy down part is the uvula. And right here, we got our oropharynx. And then just below it, we're going to have our laryngopharynx. And then, of course, we got our esophagus back here. And on this side, we got teeth, and we got the tongue. Teeth and tongue are good for mechanical digestion and for swallowing. And we can see the various parts of the palate here, including the uvula as well. So a lot of good stuff going on here. Let's check out some other things as well, like our salivary glands. Salivary glands make saliva. Saliva is mostly water, but it contains immune proteins, it contains enzymes. One enzyme that it contains is this enzyme called salivary amylase. And salivary amylase is going to help you digest starch. And when you're using an enzyme to do digestion, that's called chemical digestion. So there are three visible salivary glands in this picture here. And by the way, these are all called extrinsic salivary glands because they are outside of the oral cavity. There are intrinsic ones in like your tongue and your lips and your cheeks as well. But this guy, the big guy by the ear, is called the parotid gland. Parotid means by the ear. The guy over here is underneath the mandible. So this guy is called your submandibular gland. Maybe we'll erase that. Let's write it over here. The guy under the mandible is the submandibular gland. And then this guy, the last one right here, under the tongue, that is the sublingual gland. And by the way, all these are paired. So you got two of each of these guys, okay? And they make saliva, which is got water for dissolving food, making it easier to swallow, plus immune proteins, plus enzymes like amylase for chemical digestion. All right, what else we got? Well, now we're getting into lots of different stuff here. Starting to get to the esophagus. Again, we see the oral cavity here. I want the arrow. Let's put it on the arrow. There we go. There's our oral cavity right there with the tongue. There's the oro and laryngopharynx. So oropharynx, laryngopharynx right there. And then there's the esophagus. Runs down behind the heart, between the lungs, goes through the diaphragm. There's actually a hole in the diaphragm called the esophageal. That says esophageal. Love my mouse writing here. Need to get a touch screen with a pen, don't I? Esophageal hiatus. That's the hole right there. And then we see the stomach here as well. We'll get to the stomach in a moment. Now, the digestive actions that happen in the esophagus are pretty slim. It is basically a food tube. Doesn't do any mechanical like smashing. Doesn't do any chemical or enzymatic digestion either. Okay. Oops, daisy. Now here we see our esophagus connecting to our stomach. The stomach has several regions and characteristics. The stomach has an area right by the esophagus, and that area is called the cardia. C-A-R-D-I-A. It's a D right there. Let's make that D a little taller. Then the stomach has a dome-shaped region right there called the fundus. Then it has a big region right here called the body. And then another region right here. We're actually going to ignore this word antrum, and we're going to call this region the pylorus. So those are all important regions of the stomach. Cardia, fundus, body, pylorus. Now, the stomach also has folds in it called rugae. These are folds that unfold when you eat. So I'm kind of hungry right now. My stomach is kind of empty, which means my stomach has a bunch of rugae. I'm going to go cook dinner. I'm going to eat that dinner, and those rugae are going to decrease in number. Now, when you swallow, you have to open a sphincter, and the sphincter is called the cardiac, or the lower esophageal, or the gastroesophageal sphincter. And you open it to let food in, but it also stops digestive stuff from going backwards. And by the way, there's a word for the contents of your stomach. It is known as chyme. So all the food you ingested, the digestive juices from the stomach, plus saliva, plus mucus from the esophagus, that's called chyme. Now, your stomach is stretchy because it has rugae. Your small intestine, though, does not have rugae. These folds don't unfold. So your stomach has to gradually release chyme into the duodenum, the first part of the small intestine. And so we have another sphincter for that gradual controlled release. That's called the pyloric sphincter. It's bigger and stronger than a cardiac sphincter. So that, folks, is our stomach anatomy. And the stomach is going to pass chyme into the duodenum, which is the first foot or so of the small intestine. Notice that the duodenum also is connected to the liver and the gallbladder. The digestive liquid from the liver and gallbladder is known as bile. And then the duodenum is also connected to the pancreas, and the duodenum receives pancreatic juice from the pancreas. Bile is an emulsifier of fats. What that means is it separates big fat chunks into little fat chunks, which makes it easier for you to digest. Pancreatic juice in the pancreas is rich in enzymes for chemical digestion. All right, we'll zoom in on stuff in a way. So here is our duodenum. It has folds that don't unfold. The folds that don't unfold are called plicae. That's the worst P of all time. They're called plicae circulares. These are the folds in the small intestine. They're in the duodenum. They don't unfold. So you might wonder, like, why do you have these? And the point is surface area. The plicae circulares give you more surface area. Now, like I said, the duodenum would get chyme from the stomach. The stomach has been removed. The stomach would be like right here. There's the stomach right there. The stomach's been removed. We still see the gallbladder and the pancreas. We see a main pancreatic duct, so running right here, carrying pancreatic juice, the main pancreatic duct. We also see some ducts for bile. We are going to see a pair of ducts coming from the liver. These are the right and the left hepatic ducts. So I have a right and a left hepatic duct carrying bile from the liver. Then I've got a common hepatic duct where my right and left hepatic ducts unite. So I have a common hepatic duct. And now coming out of my gallbladder, I have a duct called the cystic duct. And the cystic duct meets the common hepatic duct, and we get a duct called the common bile duct. The common bile duct right there. So bile is actually made by your liver all the time. Bile runs down the right and left hepatic ducts into the common hepatic duct, into the common bile duct, but then bile runs into this common bile duct sphincter, which is almost always closed. And the bile backs up and backs up and backs up and backs up. And there's actually valves up here which force the bile up the cystic duct into the gallbladder. The gallbladder stores the bile. Notice it has rugae in it, which unfold. The gallbladder concentrates the bile, and then the gallbladder eventually releases the bile. Notice that the main pancreatic duct also had a sphincter. And also check out this region beyond the common bile duct and the main pancreatic duct. That region where those two guys unite is called the hepatopancreatic ampulla. An ampulla is a short, wide tube. And that hepatopancreatic ampulla is going to carry bile and pancreatic juice into the duodenum. There's also a hepatopancreatic sphincter right here as well. Now, when food gets into the duodenum, when food-rich chyme gets in here, pancreas secretes its juice, gallbladder contracts to move the bile, and all three of these sphincters are going to relax. Okay. Here we got our liver. The liver has a right lobe and a left lobe separated by a falciform ligament. So right lobe, left lobe, separated by a falciform ligament. Falciform means sickle-shaped. And if we flip our liver over, we can still see the left lobe. We can still see the right lobe as well. And now we can see another pair of lobes. So we can also see a lobe next to the gallbladder. That is called the quadrate lobe because it's kind of rectangular. And we see a lobe up here next to the vena cava called the caudate lobe because it's towards the back of the liver. By the way, the falciform ligament anchors the liver to the abdominal wall. Don't think I said it earlier. All right, so that is our liver anatomy. We did the ducts already on that previous page. So that's good. Now here we got our parts of our small intestine. There's the duodenum, which is the first foot or so. Then we got about 8 feet or so of the jejunum. That's where most of your digestion and absorption takes place. Then we got our final part called the ileum. The word ileum means twisty. The word jejunum means empty, by the way. Duodenum means like 12 fingers long. And the whole thing is twisty to give us more area, because we need a lot of surface area for digestion and absorption. Okay. The ileum, which is the end of the small intestine, it's right there. The ileum meets the large intestine. There's a little region called the cecum, or appendix sticks out of the cecum. Appendix is where we keep a reservoir of good bacteria. Then we have an ascending colon going up. It's got a turn called the hepatic flexure. Then the transverse colon going across. Another turn called the splenic flexure. And then we got a descending colon going down. Gets a little twisty. It's called the sigmoid colon. And then we get a straight part called the rectum. And the end would be the anus. Now, if we zoom in on the rectum, we got our rectum here. And in this region is called the anal canal. Then the opening is the anus. Now, around the anal canal, there's an internal anal sphincter made of smooth muscle, external anal sphincter made of skeletal muscle. These are going to ensure that poop stored in the rectum doesn't come out when it's not supposed to. Now, another thing we can notice about our colon here, it's got all of these bulges. Each of these bulges is kind of distinct, and the bulges are known as haustra. We also can see a band of smooth muscle, this ribbon right there, and there's actually 3 of these smooth muscle bands. They're called tenei coli, and their contraction kind of like scrunches up the colon to give us these haustra. All right, cool. Now we got models. In this model, we can see our teeth. We can see our tongue, our oral cavity, hard palate with both parts, soft palate with the uvula. We can see our oropharynx. We can see our laryngopharynx. And then we can see our esophagus. And of course, we got respiratory parts that we can see as well. Good stuff. If we switch it up, on this model, we can see our 3 salivary glands that we met. We got the parotid gland. We met him near the ear, the submandibular gland under the mandible, and the sublingual gland under the tongue. So we can see all 3 of those. And then if we keep going, what's next? What's next? All right, we got some more digestive stuff. It's all digestive stuff. We got our esophagus. We're going to have our regions of the stomach, including the fundus, the cardia, the body. I didn't put that totally on the body. Add another 2 circles for the body because that's not confusing. Let me draw a better. So there's our body right there. Fundus is here. Cardia is here. There's the fundus right there. And then we got our pylorus right there. So pylorus, body, fundus, cardia. And what else we got? We got our, whoops, I gotta keep drawing, I guess. We got our cardiac sphincter is the muscle right here. Pyloric sphincter is right there. And we got rugae in here as well. By the way, our stomach also has a pair of curves. I didn't mention that earlier. This is called the lesser curvature, and the curve on the outside is called the, surprise, surprise, greater curvature. We can also see the liver. There's the right lobe, the left lobe, and the falciform ligament. And we can see the gallbladder right there. Kind of hard to see the different bile ducts, but we do see the common bile duct. We see the main pancreatic duct and the hepatopancreatic ampulla where they meet. Plus, we see some plicae circularis in our duodenum. So lots of good stuff going on here. If we look at this stomach, this is a beautiful stomach, isn't it? There's our esophagus. There's our cardiac sphincter. There's our pyloric sphincter. Here's our fundus, cardiac region, body, and pyloric region. Here's our greater curvature, lesser curvature, and here all these guys are rugae in here. Now over here is our duodenum with plicae circularis in it. Okay. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email, of course. So now in this view, I still got my left lobe of my liver. I got my right lobe of my liver right here. And there's my quadrate lobe. And there's my caudate lobe. Now I can see the gallbladder and its cystic duct. Plus I can see my two hepatic ducts. There's my left hepatic duct and my right hepatic duct. And then I get my common hepatic duct right there. Then there's my common bile duct. I also see my common bile duct right here. I like this purple color. There's my main pancreatic duct. And then lastly, there's my hepatopancreatic ampulla. There's a sphincter there, but it's just not shown on the model. And of course, we see our plicae circularis, and we see our rugae, and some other good stuff too. Okay. Here we got our intestine. We got our ileum and our jejunum in here. Kind of hard to separate them. We do see our appendix and our cecum. So this is definitely the ileum right here. And separating the cecum from the ileum is this double flap here called the ileocecal valve. And that makes sure that poop doesn't backflow into the small intestine. Now we got our ascending colon here. We see haustra and one of the three Taenia coli, the band right there. I don't see my transverse colon. Be running across here. But there's my descending colon. There's my sigmoid colon. And here's my rectum. And if we kind of remove all that, we can also see the external anal sphincter, which is skeletal muscle, the internal anal sphincter right there, and then the anal canal, and the opening, of course, is the anus. All right. Oopsie. Clear that. And folks, that's it. I zoomed through this like crazy. So definitely go over it. Definitely read the lab manual. If you are unsure, have questions next time you see me, shoot me an email, hit me up, let me know what your questions are, and I will, of course, help you. So yeah, I'll see you later, hopefully in person soon. Bye.